자, 2월 6일 월요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 제이슨 리와 함께 시작합니다.
The prices of electricity, gas, and heating bills in Korea have spiked by levels unseen since the financial crisis in 1998. The last month's utility prices soaring over 30% from a year earlier.
지난달 공공요금이 전년 대비 30% 이상 인상돼 전기, 가스, 난방비 등 국내 연료 물가가 1998년 외환 위기 이후 최고 수준으로 치솟았습니다.
The U.S. has shot down a giant Chinese balloon that it says has been spying on key military sites across America, prompting Beijing to protest against Washington's use of force on what it claimed was a civilian unmanned aircraft.
미국이 자국 영공에 진입한 중국의 거대 풍선을 군사시설 정찰용이라는 이유로 격추했습니다. 이에 중국은 단순 민간 무인 비행선일 뿐이라며 미 정부의 무력 행사에 항의했습니다.
A price cap on Russian refined oil products agreed by the G7 countries, the EU, and Australia has come into force in an attempt to reduce Moscow's ability to fund its war in Ukraine without further stoking global inflation.
유럽연합 G7 그리고 호주가 합의한 러시아산 정제 유류 제품에 대한 가격 상한제가 어제부터 본격적으로 시행됐습니다. 이는 전 세계 인플레이션에 미칠 영향력을 최소화하면서 러시아의 전쟁 자금줄을 차단하려는 목적입니다.
In the U.S., a national wind chill record was broken over the weekend as feels-like temperatures bottomed out to an unfathomable minus 77 degrees Celsius in New Hampshire.
지난 주말 미국 뉴햄프셔주의 체감온도가 믿기지 않는 숫자인 영하 77도까지 내려가면서 미 전역 체감온도 신기록을 세웠습니다.
Brazil has sunk a decommissioned aircraft carrier in the Atlantic Ocean despite concerns expressed by environmental groups that the aging warship was packed with toxic materials that could leach into the water and pollute the marine food chain.
브라질이 퇴역 항공모함을 대서양에 수장시켰습니다. 노후화된 군함에서 유독성 물질이 흘러나와 해양 생태계를 오염시킬 수 있다는 환경단체들의 우려에도 강행한 조치입니다. Well, those are our headlines. Morning Headline Expressions. From the headlines today, let's have a recap of the main expressions. Jason, the first one was spike, right?
Yeah, spike, when something goes up sharply. We think of this in terms of charts in finance, typically. But yeah, certainly can be other things as well.
동사 spike라는 것은 이제 급등하다, 갑자기 확 오르다 이런 느낌으로 보시면 되겠습니다. So to rise by a lot is to spike. The next expression was use of force.
Yeah, use of force is when you're using some power, perhaps in some cases more than necessary, is claimed by other people. But yeah, you're using a certain amount of force to do something.
And when you use the noun form of the word use, you say use.
Use.
And when it's a verb, you say
Use.
그렇죠. 자, 명사일 때와 동사일 때 발음이 좀 다릅니다. use가 명사고요. use가 동사입니다. 자, use of force는 무력 행사 명사고요. come into force는 뭘까요? Another force expression here.
Yeah, come into force means to come into practice or to actually do what you're planning to do. And to enforce is essentially what we're talking about.
Come into practice is another way of saying it. 뭔가 시행되는 거죠. 법률 같은 거요. So come into force or to be enforced, en, is the same thing. Now, when something is unfathomable, what does that mean?
Unfathomable is unbelievable, maybe uncomprehendable, something that you can't understand because it's so crazy, whether it's a story or a number or something that's just wow.
Exactly. Like minus 77 degrees wind chill value in America. That is just unbelievable.
And I thought yesterday -7 was cold.
그러니까요. 영하 77도의 체감온도를 기록했다. 그래서 여기서 쓰인 표현이 unfathomable, 정말 이해할 수가 없다라는 뜻이었습니다. Now to leach into the water.
To mix into the water, to move around through the water into different places.
L-E-A-C-H, leach into the water는 물에 용해되다라는 뜻인데요. When toxic chemicals go into the sea, you can say it leaches into the water. And we don't want this to happen, but it might be happening.
It might.
자, 이렇게 오늘 헤드라인에서 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 expressions는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 자, 그럼 2월 7일 화요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 레이와 함께 시작합니다.
At least 3,500 people have been killed after two powerful earthquakes struck Turkey and Syria within the space of 12 hours on Monday, with the death toll expected to continue rising as many buildings have collapsed and there are thought to be many people trapped in the rubble.
어제 튀르키예와 시리아에서 연쇄 강진이 발생해 최소 3,500명의 사망자가 발생했습니다. 건물들이 대거 붕괴하고 많은 주민들이 매몰되면서 사망자는 더욱 늘어날 것으로 예상됩니다.
Chile has declared a state of catastrophe in several central southern regions as firefighters struggle to contain dozens of raging wildfires which have killed at least 24 people.
칠레의 중남부 곳곳에서 대형 산불이 발생해 긴급 재난지역으로 선포됐습니다. 외신은 이번 화재로 최소 24명이 숨졌으며 칠레 당국은 화재 진압에 어려움을 겪고 있다고 보도했습니다.
Peru has expanded and prolonged a state of emergency to deal with a 2-month-old revolt against President Dina Boluarte that has claimed 48 lives in clashes between protesters and security forces.
페루 정부와 2달 넘게 지속된 반정부 시위의 국가 비상사태 효력을 추가로 연장하겠다고 밝혔습니다. 시위대 충돌로 현재까지 48명이 사망한 것으로 집계됐습니다.
An Indian pharmaceutical company has suspended the production of the over-the-counter eye drops Esricare artificial tears that have been linked to reports of permanent vision loss and one death from a bloodstream infection in the U.S.
미국에서 처방전 없이 살 수 있는 에즈리케어 인공눈물을 사용했다 실명되거나 혈류 감염으로 인해 한 명이 숨지는 사례가 보고됨에 따라 인도 제약사는 해당 제품의 생산을 중단했습니다.
Astronomers have discovered 12 previously unknown moons in orbit around the solar system's biggest planet, Jupiter, bringing the known total to 92, leaving Saturn in a close second with 83 confirmed natural satellites.
태양계 행성 중 가장 큰 목성을 도는 위성 12개가 추가로 발견되면서 총 92개가 돼 83개의 위성을 가진 토성을 제치고 목성이 가장 많은 위성을 가진 행성으로 등극했습니다. And those are our headlines today. We'll have a look at those in a short while. Morning Headline Expressions. Let's have a look at our expressions from the headlines today. The first one was within the space of 12 hours.
And you can change that number
Yeah.
to anything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So within the space of, It just means in that time period. So you could even say within the space of 3 days, for example. It doesn't necessarily have to even be hours.
Within the space of 3 days would mean something happened within Monday and Wednesday,
Sure,
for example.
exactly. And I'm just randomly picking 3 days, right? And you can change all this, 2 weeks, to whatever it is you want within the space of. It just means within that time period.
네, 그러니까 3일 내에 아니면 within the space of a month, 한 달 내에 이런 느낌으로 보시면 되고요. Within the space of 12 hours, 12시간 내에 발생한 두 차례의 강진이었죠. These powerful earthquakes happened in Turkey within the space of 12 hours.
Right, and it affected Turkey, Syria, where we're seeing most destruction and deaths, but it was also felt in Israel, in Lebanon, in Cyprus.
Yes, exactly. 자, 이렇게 첫 번째 expression 봤습니다. The next expression we looked at was also linked to a lot of these stories, but it was catastrophe.
Yeah, right, and the wildfires, that's a catastrophe.
Yeah.
The earthquakes, catastrophe.
Sure.
When something just terrible happens, a disaster.
네, a disaster, 재앙이나 참사 같은 것들을 a catastrophe라고 얘기할 수 있습니다. Do you use this expression in everyday conversation?
Yeah, sure you could. And you might, something's not that big of a deal, but you might say, it was a catastrophe.
So you're being a bit dramatic.
Yeah, you might be a little bit dramatic.
진짜 큰일 났다라는 걸 좀 오버해서 말하고 싶으면 it's a catastrophe 이렇게 말할 수도 있어요. 그래서 원어민들이 가끔은 그냥 일상생활 속에서 이 단어를 쓰기도 합니다. 그럴 땐 과장하는 거긴 하지만 The next expression to look at is to expand and to prolong.
They're different, two different expressions here. So you expand something, you increase it.
Yeah.
It gets bigger.
Expand is to make it bigger.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Like they think about a balloon. If you have a balloon and you blow into it, it will expand.
That's right. 풍선 이렇게 후 불면은 커지죠. 그래서 a balloon will expand.
And to prolong something is just to make it last longer.
And you can see the word long in
Exactly.
there.
That's your clue right there. And it was usually some type of policy. Perhaps and in this case, it was the state of emergency. And then that gives the police more power, gives the government more power. Sure. They've decided to extend that. Prolong it so they can do it for a longer period of time.
네, 비상사태를 연장하기로 했어요. 그래서 they've decided to prolong the state of emergency 그리고 확대하기로 했습니다. And expand the state of emergency. The next expression was over the counter.
As you mentioned earlier, Nick, the short form is OTC. So when we're talking about medications, it means you don't require a prescription from a doctor. You can just walk in there and buy it.
Prescription이 처방전인데요. OTC does not require a prescription. So, cough syrups, like you said.
Creams, ointments, things of that nature.
Things,
exactly.
And, eye drops normally you can get quite easily. But in this case, and I put the name in there specifically for anyone who has family or friends in America, this one has been recalled, but it's stay away from it.
Well, it's just been recalled, so it's you could have it in your cabinet, right? So I thought that's why you put it in there, just in case.
Exactly. They say it hasn't been exported to Korea,
okay,
so it's
good.
not. It doesn't. It's not here, but it's, in America.
We have listeners from other countries as well, too,
sure,
right? So who knows where else. There's probably countries we don't maybe even know about where it's gone to.
그렇습니다. Over the counter는 처방전 없이 살 수 있는 약을 말하고 있는 거고요. 그다음에 previously unknown.
Previous means in the past. So previously, they didn't know about it. And sometimes if you watch TV shows, and it's a series, at the beginning of the show, you'll hear previously on Hell's Kitchen, and then they'll give a little review.
지난 시간. 그러면서 드라마 지난 시간에 이러이러한 일이 있었다라고 말하기도 하잖아요. 그래서 previously라는 게 지난번에, 이전에는 이런 의미가 있을 수 있고 TV 쇼 같은 경우에는 지난 편이 이랬다라는 의미가 됩니다.
Listen to it tonight. I'm sure a lot of people watch some of these famous TV shows. Listen to the review part and you'll hear them say it.
Previously. 자, 그래서 previously unknown이라고 하면은요, 이전에는 알려지지 않았다라는 의미가 되겠습니다. 자, 이렇게 해서 오늘 헤드라인에 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 익스프레션스는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 자, 그럼 2월 8일 수요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 레이와 함께 시작합니다.
The death toll from Monday's devastating earthquakes in Turkey has risen to more than 7,800, with numbers expected to rise as rescuers find more victims, while freezing winter weather conditions continue to hamper search efforts.
지난 월요일 발생한 튀르키예 강진으로 인한 사망자 수가 현재 7,800명을 넘어섰으며 추위로 인해 구조 환경이 좋지 않은 상황에서 더 많은 사망자가 나올 것으로 예상된다고 외신이 전했습니다.
Korea has announced plans to bring about major changes to its foreign exchange market for the first time since the Korean government was established in 1948, including extending forex trading hours and allowing offshore firms to participate in the market.
1948년 대한민국 정부가 수립된 이래 처음으로 한국의 외환시장 구조 변화 계획이 발표됐습니다. 외환시장 거래 시간을 연장하고 해외 소재 투자기관도 거래에 참여할 수 있도록 하겠다는 방침입니다.
A new report by Korea's National Labor Relations Commission shows that it handled over 16,000 labor disputes in 2022, out of some 18,000 cases that were filed for issues including unfair dismissal, pay cuts, and workplace harassment.
노동위원회가 작년 한 해 동안 부당해고, 감봉, 직장 내 괴롭힘 등을 포함한 노동 분쟁 사건을 18,000여 건 접수했으며 이 중 16,000여 건을 처리한 것으로 집계됐습니다.
Google has unveiled a new chatbot tool dubbed Bard in an apparent bid to compete with the viral success of ChatGPT, with plans to make it available to the public in the coming weeks.
구글이 인공지능 챗봇 바드 출시를 공식 선언하면서 앞서 등장한 챗GPT와 치열한 경쟁을 벌일 것을 예고했습니다.
SpaceX has celebrated exactly 5 years since it test-launched its brawny Falcon Heavy rocket, an event that was immortalized with a Tesla sports car being shot into space, along with a spacesuit-clad dummy payload named Starman in the driver's seat.
일론 머스크가 이끄는 민간 우주 기업 스페이스X가 펠컨 헤비 로켓을 통해 마네킹 우주 비행사 스타맨을 태운 테슬라 전기 스포츠카를 우주로 보낸 지 정확히 5년이 됐다고 전했습니다. And those are our headlines today. Morning Headline Expressions. Let's have a look at the key expressions. To hamper something.
If something hampers you, it makes it more difficult to do what you want to do. So if you're driving to work and it's raining, well, the rain is going to hamper your commute. It's going to make it more difficult to get there. There's going to be more traffic. You're going to have to drive slower and more carefully.
And the winter weather conditions over in Turkey and Syria are hampering search and rescue efforts.
Yeah, exactly. Think about when we had that cold snap here and all the snow. That really hampered your ability to get back home, didn't it?
That's true. 그렇죠.
Right.
뭔가 방해하는 거죠. To hamper something. 날씨로 인해서 구조 작업이 지금 크게 지장을 겪고 있다라는 얘기로 보시면 되겠고요. To bring about major changes.
Make something happen.
Yeah.
Right, simple as that. It's like again, it's not the kind of thing you're really going to say too often in regular colloquial speech. Like, I'd like to bring about some change. It would sound kind of weird. You might say, I'm thinking maybe a manager at work might say this, I'd like to make some changes.
So there's
or
a
we are
very
going to make some changes.
formal sounding connotation to it.
Right, it sounds nice in a headline.
Yeah, 그렇죠. 굉장히 공식적인 느낌이 있는 표현인데요. 큰 변화를 야기하다 정도의 느낌으로 보시면 되겠습니다. Now, what about workplace harassment?
That is not a good thing,
No.
right? That's when an employee is being harassed, so perhaps they're being threatened or insulted, and it really makes them feel bad.
Yeah.
And this could be by, say, another employee or a manager, and you've just sort of had enough. It makes it hard to go to work if someone's harassing you. And they're doing it intentionally to make you feel bad. You're kind of you're being targeted.
Yeah. Another way of saying this would be bullying in the workplace.
Bullying in the workplace, right.
그렇죠. Workplace harassment, 직장 내 괴롭힘이고요. Bullying in the workplace라고도 할 수 있습니다. The next expression is viral success.
Viral success, that's when you blow up online. And in that case, blow up means be very successful. It's
Yeah.
actually a good meaning, right? Like, oh, this video I made is blowing up right now.
Yeah.
Everyone's watching it. Look how many views I had. That would be viral success.
It's blowing up라는 거는 이제 우리말로 하면 뭐 대박 터지다 이런 느낌으로 대박나다 그런 건데요. 마찬가지죠. Viral success는 온라인상으로 큰 성공을 거뒀을 때, 인기가 있을 때 쓰는 표현입니다. 자, 마지막으로 to immortalize something.
Something is immortalized. It's made very famous,
Yeah.
and it's going to be hard to forget. Basically, it becomes unforgettable.
Becomes unforgettable. Because the word immortal itself means it doesn't die.
It doesn't die, right, if someone is immortal.
Yeah, so that image or, something
Right.
lasts forever.
Forever. It's going to be around forever, right.
그렇죠. 뭔가로 인해서 굉장히 유명해지거나 우리 기억에 남을 만한 일이 생겼을 때 이제 immortalize something이라고 할 수 있고요. 아니면 왜 배우들 중에 어떤 역할로 그냥 굉장히 오랫동안 기억이 되는 배우들 있잖아요. Some actors or actresses, they are immortalized as a character.
Yeah, in a role. You just can't forget them.
Yeah, you always think of that character when you think of that person. So they are immortalized in that role.
That's right.
그래요. 자, 이렇게 해서 뭐 어떤 불멸의 의미가 있습니다만 뭐 유명해지다, 뭐 널리 알려지다 정도의 의미로 보시면 되겠습니다. 이렇게 오늘 헤드라인에서 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 익스프레션스는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 자, 그럼 2월 9일 목요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 레이와 함께 시작합니다.
Korea's foreign ministry has issued a special travel advisory for 6 provinces in Turkey's southeastern region, effective immediately in the wake of Monday's devastating earthquakes in Turkey.
지난 월요일 튀르키예에서 발생한 강진의 여파로 외교부가 튀르키예 동남부 지역 6개 주에 대해 즉시 특별 여행 주의보를 발령했습니다.
European and U.S. officials have reportedly discussed creating a critical minerals club designed to reduce the U.S. and EU's dependence on certain countries for essential raw materials and to diversify supply chains.
미국과 유럽은 핵심 광물의 특정 국가 의존도를 줄이고 공급망을 다각화하기 위해 이른바 핵심 광물 클럽을 창설하는 방안을 논의한 것으로 알려졌습니다.
A new study finds that 15 million people across the globe live under the threat of a sudden and deadly outburst flood as glaciers melt and pour massive amounts of water into nearby lakes.
지구온난화로 녹아내린 빙하가 주변 호수로 대거 유입되면서 세계적으로 1,500만 명이 이처럼 빙하 호수 붕괴로 인한 홍수 위험에 처했다는 연구 결과가 나왔습니다.
Mexican police have detained a medical doctor and 2 others, all implicated in using medicines that may have caused a mysterious meningitis outbreak after the disease killed at least 35 women in recent months.
멕시코 경찰은 최근 불가사의한 대규모 수막염 발병 사태를 초래한 것으로 보이는 약품을 사용한 혐의로 의사를 포함한 3명의 신병을 확보했습니다. 멕시코에서는 이번 수막염으로 최소 35명의 여성들이 사망한 것으로 알려졌습니다.
A U.S. jetliner was forced to promptly double back after a laptop battery pack caught fire in the cabin of the flight, with 4 people taken to hospital and treated for smoke inhalation.
미국의 한 여객기 기내에서 노트북 배터리에 불이 나는 사고가 발생했습니다. 사고 직후 항공기는 회항했고 연기를 흡입한 4명은 병원으로 옮겨져 치료를 받았습니다. And those have been today's morning headlines. Morning Headline Expressions. From the headlines today, we looked at the expressions in the wake of.
That's in the aftermath of something negative, something bad, something unpleasant.
So A happens first, and then B happens.
And it happens because of that.
And you would say B happened in the wake of A.
In the wake of A. And then you know that it's not a good thing, right? Or, A caused a lot of problems for B.
So would you say it normally has a negative connotation?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, normally it's used.
So you wouldn't say, I smiled in the wake of a surprise birthday party.
No. And it's like, as you mentioned earlier, the wake is that path that a boat creates.
Yeah.
So it creates waves.
Right.
So if you're swimming, if you're canoeing, anything like that, and a boat goes past, it causes waves.
Yeah.
So you can think of something negative just causing waves. So the thing that follows it, it's not smooth.
Oh, that's a really useful point. 이 wake라는 표현이 들어가는 in the wake of는요, 부정적인 뉘앙스가 있다라는 거. In the wake of A. A 뒤이어 이러이러한 안 좋은 일들. 근데 여기 이 경우에는 이제 그 여행 주의보가 내려졌다라는 것인데요. 이 자체가 안 좋은 것은 아니지만 전체적인 상황 자체가 이제 굉장히 긴박하게 돌아가는 분위기죠. 그렇게 이해하시면 되겠습니다. 보통 이제 행복한 뉴스를 전할 때 in the wake of를 안 쓴다는 거예요. The next expression is reduce one's dependence on something.
If you reduce anything, you're decreasing it. So we have to reduce spending.
Yeah.
I have to reduce my sugar intake. So reduce is just make something less. And dependence, if you have a dependence on something, means you need it.
그쵸.
You rely on it for survival or because of an addiction.
The opposite is independence.
Yes.
네, 독립심을 우리가 independence라고 하죠. 반대말 여기서 dependence는 의존도인데요. Reduce one's dependence on something. 무언가에 대한 의존도를 줄이는 겁니다. 그 다음에 a study finds.
Right, like a study is research. It can't actually find something physically, but throughout your research, you can discover information. You can discover facts.
And this is a set phrase.
It is, exactly. And what was the other one you said? The study finds or the study shows.
Yep.
Look, this is the research. What does this research tell us? Well, it shows us this.
그럼요. 그래서 연구 결과에 따르면 이라는 뜻으로 굳어진 표현 a study shows or a study finds 둘 다 가능합니다. 자, 그 다음에는요. Be implicated in something.
Ooh, not good. If you're implicated in something and it's almost always a crime or something bad.
You're involved in
You're
a
involved
crime.
in it and you have at least some level of responsibility.
네, 범죄에 연루돼 있을 때 be implicated in something이라고 할 수 있고요. 자, 그 다음에 마지막 표현은 double back.
Double back. You go somewhere, you realize, I forgot something or there's a problem.
Yeah.
Turn right back around.
double back는 오던 길로 되돌아가는 거죠. Sometimes after the show, I will double back because I remember, I left my pencil case in the studio, or I left my phone in the studio.
Right, that happens. I always have to double back if I forget I get to the subway or the bus and I forgot my wallet.
Oh, no.
That's the worst.
double back는 오던 길로 되돌아가는 걸 말합니다. And those are our expressions. 모닝 헤드라인 expressions는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣기 하실 수 있습니다. 자, 그러면 2월 10일 금요일 모닝 헤드라인스 뉴스캐스터 폴과 함께 시작합니다.
The hike in cab fares in Seoul that went into effect earlier this month has led to a substantial drop in taxi users, especially during nighttime hours when surcharges apply, with more people opting to use public transport and return home early after work.
이달 서울 택시 요금이 인상됨에 따라 택시 사용자 수가 급감했습니다. 특히 심야 할증이 적용되는 시간에 이용자 수가 감소했으며 시민들의 귀가 시간도 빨라졌습니다.
The EU has said it will provide emergency humanitarian assistance to Turkey and Syria worth 6.5 million euros in one of the largest ever search and rescue operations launched through its civil protection mechanism.
유럽연합은 대지진 참사를 겪은 튀르키예와 시리아에 총 650만 유로, 우리 돈 약 88억 원 규모의 긴급 인도적 지원을 결정했습니다. 시민 보호 메커니즘을 통한 인도 지원 금액 가운데 역대 최대 규모입니다.
The US has held briefings with foreign diplomats from 40 nations about the Chinese spy balloon that entered US airspace in late January, saying the balloons were part of a Chinese aerial fleet that has also violated the sovereignty of other countries.
미국이 워싱턴에 주재하는 40여 개국 대사관의 외교관을 초청해 1월 말 미국 영공에 진입한 중국의 정찰 풍선 사태와 관련해 상세한 정보를 공유했습니다. 미국 정부는 중국군이 이러한 정찰 풍선을 이용해 다른 나라의 주권도 침해한 것으로 파악한다고 밝혔습니다.
Scientists have detected a previously unknown layer of partially molten rock beneath Earth's crust that could help researchers learn more about the movements of Earth's tectonic plates.
지구 지각 아래 지금까지 알려지지 않은 새로운 층이 발견됐습니다. 향후 지각판의 움직임을 이해하는 데 더 많은 도움이 될 것으로 보인다는 분석입니다.
Los Angeles Lakers forward LeBron James, aka King James, has surpassed Lakers legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to become the NBA's all-time leading scorer, setting the mark in a home game against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
킹 제임스라는 별명을 가진 미국 LA 레이커스의 르브론 제임스가 오클라호마 시티 썬더와의 경기에서 전설의 카림 압둘 자바를 넘어 미국 프로농구 통산 최다 득점 기록을 세웠습니다. And those are our headlines. Morning headline expressions. Let's have a look at the key expressions from the headlines. A substantial drop.
Well, I hope I can give you a substantial explanation, one that is satisfying, one that is enough, because when we use substantial, it means a relatively large amount of something. In this case, it's not a positive thing. It's a substantial drop, a substantial decrease in the number of taxi users.
substantial은 상당히 크다라는 의미가 들어있기 때문에 a substantial drop 그러면 상당한 감소, a substantial increase 그러면 상당한 증가가 될 수도 있고요. 그다음에 a substantial meal 그러면 상당히 큰 식사가 되겠죠. Substantial anything means a lot of it.
Yes.
Very big. 자, 그다음에 emergency humanitarian assistance.
Yes, here assistance is aid or help, and if it's humanitarian assistance, then it's helping humans who are in need or in trouble or in danger. It's about human welfare, so it's about medicine, food, shelter, that kind of thing.
Yes. emergency라는 게 비상의 의미도 있죠. 우리가 이제 비상사태를 선포했다 할 때는 a state of emergency has been issued 이렇게 말하기도 하는데요. 여기서는 긴급이라는 의미로 emergency humanitarian assistance, 긴급 인도적 지원이 되겠고요. 그 다음에 우리 emergency exit 있잖아요.
네.
비상구, 그것도 emergency입니다. So it can be translated, depending on the context, as 비상 or 긴급.
Yes.
다음 표현은 aerial fleet입니다.
Aerial means up in the air, and fleet is a group of vessels, normally ships, but in this case it's Chinese balloons.
aerial fleet라는 것은 항공 함대를 말하고 있습니다. 여기서는 이제 구체적으로 정찰 풍선에 대한 얘기이기는 했어요. 이게 많고 그다음에 여러 나라를 이렇게 어떻게 보면은 감시하는 용도로 쓰였을 수도 있다라는 얘기가 나오고 있는데요. 다음 표현은 partially molten rock였어요.
Yeah, if something is partially something, it's not 100%. It's not fully that thing. It's going to be only part that thing. Whether that's 10%, 50%, or 90%, well, that's all partially.
그렇죠. partially 뭐뭐뭐 이렇게 말하면은 이제 부분적으로 뭐뭐하다라는 의미인데요. molten이라는 거는 녹아있다라는 의미예요. 그래서 partially molten rock는 부분적으로 녹아있는 층을 말합니다. 여기서는요. 네. 자, 그 다음에 AKA
Also known as 최수진, aka 만두수.
What? 자, AKA라는 것은 also known as 뭐뭐라고도 알려진 이라는 뜻이죠. 그래서 아까 드웨인 존슨 얘기를 했어요.
네.
그래서 드웨인 존슨, aka The Rock 이렇게
Yes.
얘기할 수
Or
있습니다.
Paul Matthews, aka Paul 아저씨.
아,
People
그러네요.
often call me that.
아, 너무 좋네요. 네, 선생님의 그 별명,
네.
그리고 그 핸들이잖아요. 인터넷상에서.
네네네.
Paul Matthews, aka Paul 아저씨 이렇게 얘기를 할 수 있습니다. 자, 오늘 헤드라인에서 나온 표현들 리뷰해봤고요. 모닝 헤드라인 expressions는 오디오 어학당과 유튜브에서 무료로 다시 듣게 하실 수 있습니다.